So who does this? I call it Wall Street's parallel government. You can think of the parallel government as the guys who give the orders, and then there's a rogue network, the CIA old boys, the asteroids, who actually carry out the hits. Now, we got to remember, the US establishment is mired in fascism and Nazism. Rockefeller and Standard Oil had to deal with I.G. Farben of Germany. Farish, and this is a family close to Bush, were in there with I.G. Farben. Prescott Bush, and this is my great claim to fame, right, in the Bush book of 1992, Prescott Bush was linked to Thyssen, who was one of the people who paid to get Hitler into power. Alfred P. Sloan of General Motors had Opel in Germany, therefore with the Nazis. Irene DuPont, General Motors, Opel, I.G. Farben. Henry Ford, direct admirer of Hitler. The Dulles brothers, according to some accounts, helped to put Hitler into power on the ground. Charles Lindbergh, Nazi sympathizer, America first. And the thing that all these people agreed with is that they preferred Hitler to Franklin D. Roosevelt. Mussolini better than Franklin D. Roosevelt. And I'm sorry, libertarians, deal with it. That's the reality. Now, a couple of examples. Now, I've helpfully added the Jolly Roger here. And of course, this means that they're from Skull and Bones. And Skull and Bones is with us today. So we'll see how many of them come from Skull and Bones. Not all of them, but quite a few. Colonel Henry Stimson took over the War Department in World War II. He had 10 million troops working for him. The putting of the Japanese Americans into concentration camps, that's him. The dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima is him. You think pathetic little Ku Klux Klansman Harry Truman had anything to decide about that? No, no, no. He regarded the atomic bomb as his private toy. He was going to use it the way he wanted for the glory of his faction. Stimson, and he was the dean of the establishment from the 1930s, 1940s. Allen Dulles and John Foster Dulles. Now, they went to Princeton. This is not Skull and Bones. But I would propose Allen Dulles in particular as the archetype of what I'm talking about. The point where Wall Street, the CIA or OSS, and the State Department intersect. This is the invisible government. Now you'll say, well, he wasn't invisible. No, he's not invisible, but he's like an iceberg, right? The visible part is a small part of what he actually does, and it doesn't really explain why he has all this power. He tried to have a separate peace with the Nazis in Western Europe. He's the dominant figure, or they are, of the Cold War. John Foster had died, but Allen was fired by Kennedy after the Bay of Pigs. Key role in the Kennedy assassination is to run the cover-up through the Warren Commission. So that's another one. John J. McCloy was the right-hand man of Stimson, and his nickname, along with one other guy we're going to see, is the Imp of Satan. Imp of Satan, the Imp of Satan. He wanted the Japanese Americans in the concentration camp because his fame was he had investigated German sabotage of munitions plants in World War I, the so-called Black Tom explosion in New York Harbor. So he said, round them all up, put them in there. Not Roosevelt. It's a united front. Remember, they were brought into the government by Roosevelt. The Roosevelt government is a united front of Roosevelt and Roosevelt's worst enemies. It's a government of national unity to wage World War II. And if you want to write about Pearl Harbor, he's the most important guy in the intelligence in the War Department pre-Pearl Harbor. So he has a big part to play in setting up Pearl Harbor, not for Roosevelt, but against Roosevelt. Libertarians, deal with it. Here's another one, Robert Lovett. Lovett or Leave It, as we sometimes call him. He's also from Skull and Bones. He's the other Imp of Satan. So Stimson has two Imps of Satan. He's got McCloy and he's got Lovett. Now Lovett, I guess the main thing is, this is the guy who destroyed the Kennedy administration by choosing everybody in the Kennedy cabinet. You look at the Kennedy cabinet, you say, McNamara, Rusk, who are these people? They're the ones that he chose. Kennedy essentially turned the government over to him in the first year, and that was a very bad decision. And then we have the Bundys. Harvey Hollister Bundy, another Stimson man brought in to the War Department in World War II, and his son, McGeorge Bundy. Skull and Bones, both of them. Both of them are Skull and Bones. Oh my God, 10 minutes. No, that's not possible. No, sorry. Not going to happen. I can hurry up a little bit. And Averell Harriman, another Skull and Bones. This is who brings you the Vietnam War. And, of course, McGeorge Bundy. McGeorge Bundy, Vietnam War, Kennedy assassination. And then, of course, the two Skull and Bones representatives in our own time, right? George Herbert Walker and the younger. And, of course, today, the top warmonger in the administration, way out ahead of Obama, right? Dragging Obama into war, Skull and Bones Kerry. Now, I got to talk a little bit about how do we get to this. Let's check another country and see what it looks like there. Annie Lacroix-Riz is a French historian, and she's done into archives that have recently been opened. And this is her book called The Choice of Defeat. And what it says is that the French elite was so interested in union busting that they did everything possible to bring Hitler in. They opened the gates of the city to Hitler. This is the collapse of France in 1940. And here's the other one, from Munich to Vichy. This is the idea that French collaboration with the Nazis didn't begin once the Nazis occupied the country, but before. Okay, so in the 1930s, we have two groups. I'll just mention them. One is called the Synarchy. That's the elite, right? The synarchist movement for the French Empire. It's based at the Banque Worm, a big bank in Paris. So these are the elitists. Their strategy is better Hitler than the Popular Front, better Hitler than the socialists and communists. And the armed wing is the Cagoule, the Hood, the Secret Committee for Revolutionary Action. And ladies, if you're wearing L'Oreal, you're wearing the Cagoule. The goal is to destroy the French Republic, understood as big government. Big government. And here's one of the things they did. The quasi-revolution, February 1934, a bunch of fascists trying to storm the French National Assembly. And we had something similar here. We had a guy who wanted to come into the District of Columbia with rifles. That leads exactly to this, right? And it's something we don't want. Now, during the course of the 1930s and 20s, we have coup attempts in 1924. We have 1934, the one I've just showed you. There's an attempted coup d'etat by the Cagoule in 1937. None of them work. The one that works is the one that's associated with the military defeat. So they bring about a military defeat and use that as a cover for a successful coup. Okay? In the course of this, anybody who gets in their way, like Foreign Minister Bartu, is killed. This is a very dramatic picture. October 1934, King Alexander of Yugoslavia comes to meet the French foreign minister. They're going to be dead in a couple of minutes. And the goal of all this is Pétain, Marshal Pétain, the French fascists. So there are more kinds of fascists than people think. Now, we've already had the mention of Daniele Ganzer's book on NATO secret armies. Problem again here, narrow, academic, cautious, right? Good book, good facts, but not the whole story. Not the Moro assassination. Here's another new one. I'm trying to keep you in touch with the best European research. This is L'Anello, the ring, but it's not Tolkien. This is a third Italian entity, the P2 Lodge for the elites, Gladio for street fighters, and then this is another one. This seems to be a Catholic one that was fighting the other two, perhaps, called the Ring. So what I'm trying to point to is the wealthy elite organizes itself. What do we know about the way the U.S. elite organizes itself? Well, not enough, I would say. And that's Stefania Limiti, the author of L'Anello. Now,